of our announcements. Pop, 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 pop. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There we go. Okay. Now I've got it all together. Well, let's assume that's true. Where the rubber meets the road. This Wednesday, Pam, you said that there's something going on this Wednesday at 7 o'clock?
Yes. The transition team will be putting together a letter for potential speakers.
Oh, okay. So this is
yeah.
transition team only?
Yes.
Ah, all right.
Anyone who wants to help write the letter. And happens to be my anniversary also, but we're going to do it. Paul and I will celebrate earlier in the day.
Anniversary. How many is this?
30. Let's see here. What year are we? 2021?
Yeah, 21.
We were married in 84, so
37 years.
37.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I deserve it.
What about Paul? Doesn't Paul deserve it too? Okay. Well, we'll leave that for you two to discuss.
No, we're doing
it. Lose. Yes. To clarify, at the meeting last Tuesday, those of us who are interested in helping write this letter are invited to be on Zoom Wednesday night at 7.
Correct.
With Pam and other members of the board, but anyone who's interested in helping is invited. It's not limited to the transition team.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Very good. Well,
right.
I'm glad you clarified that for me. I was unclear.
Thank you, Chris.
But thank you. Apparently last week I had the wrong links in the financial statements in the newsletter, but hopefully I checked them this week, and hopefully they're correct this week. And of course, if you'd like to have any conversation with me, don't hesitate. Give me a call. Drop me a note, either through the email address, livingwaterunity@comcast.net, my phone number 720-935-3999, or drop your number in the chat box. Okay.
David?
Yes, go ahead.
There's one more announcement related to the transition team, but Mark was going to make that. So if there's a board member that was at the meeting on Wednesday night that wanted to ask that question, go ahead. Or we could do it at the end of the service.
Well, if you know what it is, go ahead.
Okay. We, Living Water Spiritual Community, has the opportunity to rent our previous building at a low cost to use for Sunday services. We are wondering if, considering the Delta variant situation and all that, how many people that are here would want to meet in person and how often. So I was wondering, yes, we are going to try to do Zoom also, along with an in-person service. So it may not be as, I don't know, we may need to spread out in the facility, but the idea is to have Zoom along with in-person. So, please put in the chat box or let us know now if you would like to be in person every single week and Zoom, or if you want to start off with every 2 weeks or once a month, or what that looks like for you. What are you willing to participate in? Because I'm going to be setting up some guest speakers, or not just me, the committee is going to be setting up some guest speakers, and we're going to give them the option of being in person or via Zoom if that's what you want. So, David, I'm sorry I delayed your church service here a little bit, but this is not meant to be a discussion, it's just meant to be a survey. So,
Okay, so why don't we just do it in chat box? Because there are so many options that you've expressed. Number one, whether or not you want to just stay on Zoom. Number two, meet in person. And number three, how often?
And here's my phone number. If you can't do chat box, here it is. Send me a call or text me. 303-916-7877. So put it in chat. Every week in person, once a month in person, twice a month in person, or only Zoom. Okay? Is that clear?
Pam?
Thank you all. Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Is the band going to be at the in-person meetings?
Yes. We are going to have music in person.
Yay!
Whether or not that's the band as it was when we stopped in person isn't the question.
Right.
Right. We will have music, and the intention, of course, is to reconstitute the band. But of course, there's expense in that, so so you need to consider that as well. Okay.
We want to rebuild the community, starting with you guys, so you guys get to have a say in how often we will be meeting in person, but we'll be having guest speakers, and then eventually we'll have potential leaders for Living Water Unity. So let us know.
Okay. All right. Well, let us get back to our normal process here, if there is such a thing.
Thank you.
Okay. Doug, if you would please. Thank you, Doug. And our affirmation of Living Water Unity. Unmute your microphone and join us all together. There will be a cacophony, but that's wonderful. Living Water Unity is a thriving spiritual community inspired to embrace and share our abundant good now. I'm empowered for joyful living by expressing God in each moment. Thank you. And our daily word today is radiance. Who would like to share that?
I can do that.
Okay.
Today's word is radiance. The Christ presence within is my radiant source of good. On a clear day, when a stray cloud passes across the sun, I notice the suddenly diminished light. Then, looking up, I see brilliant rays of sunshine surrounding the cloud. Instead of fighting the sun, The cloud helps me see and appreciate the sun's radiance. As the sun lights the earth and as the source of its energy, the Christ, the divine presence within me, is my light and the source of everything I need in order to live brilliantly and joyfully. And like a passing cloud, an obstacle or challenge along my path may seem to dim my Christ light. I respond by looking up, by raising my point of view. I am reassured and strengthened, knowing that the divine radiance is shining as brightly as ever. No cloud can dim the divine light in me. And our scripture is from John 1:5. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it.
Thank you. In our affirming prayer, as we recognize that this point in time is the sacred time, our present moment, whenever it is, our present place, wherever we are, is the sacred place. And so in the awareness of this sacred time and this sacred place, because this is now, we rest in the awareness that God's love has no end and is a power that knows no bounds. God's healing power of divine life is restoring, healing, and revitalizing our world and our lives in this very moment. We let go of any fears or anxieties, affirming that divine order is now, has always been, and always will be at work in our lives. We bless our global family with the vision of fulfilling and empowering relationships, filled with an abundance of love. And we express our own divinity in all we think, say, and do. And so it is. And I invite your offered prayers now, one at a time, and we will hold those prayers in this community crucible of unconditional love. One of our past congregants, David Cowles, his mom passed a few days ago, 2 days ago, I guess. So I'd like to hold David and his family, Pat Seraphin, of course, his spouse, and others and their family in this awareness of unconditional love. And so it is.
Rachel here. I'd like to ask for prayers for my brother Bill and his wife Colleen. Colleen's mother and Bill's surrogate mother passed away just recently.
And so it is.
I'd like to ask for prayers and guidance for John and Nancy Turek, who used to be in our congregation. She is suffering from Alzheimer's and sundowning, and he's not getting any sleep. And it's a very rough situation. We went up and visited them Wednesday. And trying to help them, or just guidance and helping John decide where to go from here. He's trying to handle it all by himself, and it's not working very well for him. So just help for his guidance and Nancy's healing and being comfortable with where she is. Thank you.
And so it is.
I'd like to ask for prayers for rapid recovery and healing for our friend Ruth, who experienced severe chest pain while getting ready to hike in Vail last week and was air flighted to Denver and had open heart surgery for a dissecting aorta. So she's doing well, but we know it's a long road. And we're thankful for all the miracles that happen along the way.
And so it is.
I'd like to ask for prayers for my neighbor, Pauline, who's in the hospital at the present time, lost in total confusion, and it's Alzheimer's, and they're afraid she won't be able to return here, and her family are just heartbroken. So prayers for her family and her.
And so it is.
I'd like to ask prayers for Chris and Angel. Last Sunday they were in a car wreck and no broken bones, just a lot of soreness, and Chris has a bad concussion. He's supposed to start work, and I just hope he can. Just prayers that they recover quickly.
And so it is.
I'd like to ask for a quick and total recovery for Sharon Lazat, who had surgery for a detached retina.
And so it is. I'd like to offer prayers for my friend Richard, who was instrumental in my inspiration to go into ministry some 30 X number years ago. He suffered a stroke 3 days ago. Seeing him whole and healed. And so it is.
I'd like to ask for prayers for Coletta Herrick. She's currently homeless. She and everyone in the apartment building she lived in were evicted in late June so that they could refurbish those apartments, but there was no help in people finding new places to live. And so she's currently living in a motel, and I ask for prayers for the resolution of her housing situation. a quick and easy solution for her.
And so it is. Are there any other prayer requests?
I'd like to ask for the vanquishment of the coronavirus throughout the world as soon as possible.
And so it is. Are there any other prayer requests?
I'd like to ask for peace of mind for Betty Charles.
And so it is. Are there any other prayer requests? For all of those prayers not spoken, for all of those in need of prayer, facing traumas of various sorts in their lives, relationships, careers, finances, whatever might disturb their peace of mind and their awareness of the presence of God's love, we hold them in the light. We see that love embracing them and lifting them and transforming them. And for this we give thanks. And so it is that together we say, Amen.
Amen.
Well, Doug, you have some music for us this morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to play a tune from 1941 by Hoagie Carmichael, lyrics by Johnny Mercer, titled Skylark. And just reading about Johnny Mercer a little bit, but the essence of this tune is he's looking at this bird, Skylark, have you anything to say to me? Won't you tell me where my love can be? Is there a meadow in the mist where someone's waiting to be kissed? So maybe the bird has all the answers. I don't know. We'll never know.
This is a a full 3
Thank you, Doug. Yes. Well, where the rubber meets the road. Ah, that's good. All right. Well, we have been studying over the course of the last several weeks. We've been considering the 5 principles of unity. The 5 principles of unity are they're the essence of unity's teachings. What's interesting to me is that the 5 principles of unity actually didn't become formulated. They weren't articulated in this form for 100 years after the forming of unity. That is that Fillmore was doing his thing, and the various unity teachers across the spectrum of ministers and licensed teachers, they had not put these principles together until the Daily Word publication invited Connie Fillmore Bazzi, who is the granddaughter of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. She was asked, she was the president of what is now Unity World Headquarters at the time, but she was asked to summarize what are the teachings of unity. And so in her response, she wrote an article for the Daily Word in 1990 and laid out these 5 principles. And to me, these 5 principles are the essence. They're the depth and breadth of unity's teachings. And so the simplicity and ability to remember these 5 principles, arriving late in the game, if you will, to me is interesting. So these 5 principles, as we look at these 5 principles, we see that there is structure to them. I have placed the structure of premise, proposition, process, practice, and promise as an alliteration to kind of key in on remembering them. But that alliteration is nowhere to be found except here. But there's one power and one presence, God the good, omnipotence. That premise that there is an underlying essence, there is an underlying presence that we call God, but also representing all power, representing all good. That premise is the foundation upon which unity rests. And then the one Son of God, the Christ, abides in each of us. That's a proposition that we can test. That's a proposition that is offered to us as this principle, that the Christ indeed is present within us, and it will express if we allow it. There's a number of things that get in the way, and that, of course, is the subject of thousands of unity talks across the spectrum. And then the thoughts that we hold in mind manifest in our experience. That process is a key process. It's the central essence of Unity's teachings. And then we talked last week about the tools of transformation, the prayer and meditation, the denials and affirmations, the prayer and meditation to attune us to the underlying vibration of the universe, that underlying consciousness that I have labeled God. And then the denials and affirmations as a means of transforming the habituated thoughts, habituated behaviors that we have. So we come to this 5th one. The promise is that we change our lives by applying these principles. And that really is where the rubber meets the road. It is where we allow ourselves the responsibility to engage these principles, put them to work in our lives, and see by the demonstration that occurs through that practice, through that application, we see that indeed these principles work. These principles are profound. They're simple, yet they are profound. And so the interesting thing about this is that they only work if we work them. They are truly the fuel or the navigation tools that we can use to make our lives more effective, to make our lives happier, to bring us peace of mind, to bring us a transformative consciousness where the events that occur in our lives, our ability to respond to those events that occur in our lives in thoughtful and divine ways, indeed change our lives. So the interesting thing is we're always living these principles. That is, Ellen Davenport, in her book, The 5 Principles, makes the point that these principles are applicable, they are functioning, they are the dynamics of our lives, whether or not we practice them or not. So the thoughts we hold in mind manifest in our experience. We look at the evening news, and we see in the evening news a severe disconnect between that which we would like to have in our lives and that which we focus on in our lives. You watch the evening news, or you tune in to your favorite website, your internet news source, and there is story after story after story after story that about the tragedies and the conflicts and the disruptions, eruptions in people's lives. I'm sure that everyone here has noticed that the evening news often or usually ends with a human interest story. A dog is driven 3,000 miles to be reunited with their owner, or whatever. It's a story that evokes some positive emotions. It's kind of an attempt at fair and balanced reporting, I suppose. But the idea that we are constantly exposed to the tragedies and conflicts of the world is, well, that's kind of what news is about. Ellen Davenport, prior to her becoming a Unity minister, in fact, I remember conversations during our prayer time. She and I were prayer partners back in ministerial school for 2 years, but we would often go into the prayer time and we would relate things that were going on in our lives before we entered into prayer. And she would often relate her experience as a journalist. She was, I'm not sure which Dallas newspaper she was working with before going to ministerial school, but she makes the point in her book that the news is really the unusual things. She uses the example that millions of kids go to school every morning. They sit in class, they learn or they don't learn, whatever is up to them, but they go home and they go about their lives day after day after day. The news will pick up on the one kid that takes the gun to school and opens fire. Well, yeah, okay, that's kind of the way the news is. And then we look at the news and we say, oh my God, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. And in reality, no, it's not. We look at our lives and we focus on those things that are disruptive in our lives, and we say, oh my God, my life is a dumpster fire. No, it's not. It's what we choose to focus on that causes us to think that the world is going to hell in a handbasket, that our lives is a dumpster fire. That is really the idea behind Principle 5, is that which we focus on is manifest in our lives, and if we practice focusing our minds appropriately, we will find that our lives really are a source of gratitude, that there are so many positive things that are going on in our lives, that there are so many opportunities for us to be expressing our divinity. There are so many ways that we see demonstrated out there that this person and that person and that person over there, they are representatives of the Christ here. But we see them. We see by their actions. We see by their words. If we focus on that, if we pay attention to that. There's a passage in Luke that Jesus talks about in Luke 8. Let me share that with you. In Luke 8, there it is. Come on, I know that we can do this. I know. Oh, I'm going backwards, not forwards. All right. So, Luke 8, 4-8. When a great crowd gathered and people from town after town came to him, he said in a parable, a sower went out to sow his seed, and as he sowed, some fell on the path and was trampled on, and the birds of the air ate it up. Some fell on the rock, and as it grew up, it withered for lack of moisture. Some fell among the thorns, and the thorns grew with it and choked it. Some fell into good soil, and when it grew, it produced 100-fold. As he said this, he called out, let anyone with ears to hear listen. Let anyone with ears to hear listen. This parable is a demonstration that it's a lesson that we can pay attention to if we look at it metaphysically, it becomes relevant to our lives. Of course, if we say, oh, well, that idea, sower of a seed, dropping seed on the path and on the rocks and on the thorns and good soil, what does that have to do with me? That was said 2,000 years ago. I'm not a sower of seeds. I'm not interested in agriculture. I go to the store for all my food. Well, when we look at the story metaphysically, it does indeed have relevance. It does teach us some significant things. The seeds in this story, the seeds are the thoughts, the concepts, the lessons, the things that are presented to us for our consideration. And they are mental elements, if you will, that the purpose of them is to help us grow our consciousness. Now, let me say that metaphysical interpretation is all about you, the individual who is reading the story, who is interpreting the story. And each person is going to look at these stories and draw a different lesson from them. And that is absolutely perfectly all right. Not only all right, but it is the purpose of metaphysical interpretation, is to allow a life lesson to be presented and interpreted based upon your own experience, based upon your own belief, based upon your own perceptions of how life works. So this interpretation I offer to you for your consideration. It is my interpretation, and it is an interpretation that is shared by many others, but that's not the point. Whether or not, this is not a vote. This is not what is the most popular interpretation of this metaphysical lesson. That's not the point. The point is that it is up to each of us to take these lessons and consider them in light of our own life circumstance. So the sower is the teaching agent. That may be an antagonist, it may be a protagonist, it may be a situation, a life lesson that is presented to us, but that sower is that's the source of the teaching. And so the path is merely the disinterested recipient of the lesson. They're going about their life. They're paying attention to what's going on around them. They're not paying attention to the path that they're walking on. They are the disinterested. Can't do anything about that, right? I mean, the sower of the seed is not the one that forces the person to pay attention. When the seeds are falling on the rocky ground, the rocky ground could be considered obstacles. They are inhibitors of growth. They might allow from some incidental rainfall. The seed might in fact sprout, but the sun comes out again, dries up the pool of water, and the seed dies. Well, that rocky ground represents the obstacles that we have that distract us from the life lessons, the fears of various sorts. My bank account is too low. My relationship is on the rocks. My career is at a dead end, or whatever. We focus on those obstacles without paying attention to the lessons that are presented to us that may in fact enhance our lives. The thorns are those competing motivations, the yes buts of our life. Well, yes, I know I should meditate, but I've got other things to do. I know that I should be forgiving, but I can't forgive him for doing that. I mean, that was such an insult, or that was such an impingement on my life. How could I forgive that? So the thorns represent the yes buts of our lives, where the lessons are presented to us. We consider the lessons, we say yes but, and we go about negating or disempowering the lessons that are presented to us. And then the fertile ground. Of course, the fertile ground represents those motivated listeners, those motivated practitioners who see that there are things going on in their life they'd like to change, and they're intent upon finding ways to do that. They pay attention to the dynamics of their lives, the dynamics of their relationships. They pay attention to the events that are presented to them. They pay attention to how they respond to the events, and they pay attention to the result of that response to those events. Okay, so they're the motivated students. They're the ones that are paying attention. And in paying attention, what they are doing is that they are reevaluating their behavior. They're reevaluating their beliefs. They're reevaluating their perceptions and their assumptions. They're reevaluating the dynamics of their lives in such a way that they are able to then take those lessons and apply them and say, oh, well, I did this and that resulted in that. Did I like that? No, I didn't like that. Well, maybe I need to change what I did to initiate that. Okay, I did this and it resulted in that. Do I like that? Yes, I like that. So I'm going to look at what I did and I'm going to repeat that. Okay, I'm going to choose how I'm going to respond to the challenges in my life. I'm going to choose how I respond to the events that come up. I'm going to choose how I respond in my relationships. I'm going to pay attention to how my life unfolds and whether or not I choose to allow that to occur again. So, the sower of the seeds, the parable of the sower of seeds, really is an application of Principle 5, and that is knowing these truths, paying attention to the dynamics that arise from our practice of these truths, allow us to decide whether or not we're going to continue or whether or not we're going to change. So, when we look at all of this, we realize that number 5 really says the choice is yours. Are you going to be the fertile ground? Are you going to be the rocky soil? Are you going to be the thorns, the thorn growth? Or are you going to be the walker of the path, paying no attention to the lessons that are being presented to you? Empowering. This is our choice. There's no one out there that's going to make the choice for us. There's no one out there that's going to cause us to change our behavior, change our consideration of our life lessons. There's no one out there that's going to force us to pay attention. It's only us. It's only us. It's up to us. The choice is ours. There it is. The choice is ours. But if we pay attention, if we apply the principles, if we recognize that we are the captains of our destiny, when we recognize that we have the tiller of our life in our hands and we can steer our life wherever we want to take it, then we become the knowledgeable, effective practitioner of the engineering of our life. Our choice. There it is. Down and dirty. Nothing else. I'd like to share with you some music. Let's see. There it is. Hang on just a second. I need to move this past. I need to move this past this initial
months of food without needing any refrigeration or special storage. You're looking.
Welcome to VOE for January 2019. As we start a new year, a friend of mine who is a speaker channel, Michael's message is incredible because we can do amazing things.
Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing things. Amazing. amazing. You will do amazing things. You will do amazing things with a choice each new day brings, and with every step you take. Bless the progress that you make. The reason you live is there in every gift you give. Love your life, love your dreams. You will do amazing things. Places you will go, and the people you will know. Don't worry when, where, or how. You don't need to know that now. You're on the right track. No need to look ahead or back. Just enjoy what this day brings. You will do amazing things. You don't have to work it out, just stay in the here and now. Let your mind rest for a little while. Sometimes deepest answers come when you're out there having fun. So close your eyes, take a breath, and smile. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing
Let's have our meditation. As we come into our meditation, let us come in with the awareness of the presence of God, right here, right now. This presence is never apart from us. It is present every time we extend the invitation. There's no part of us where this presence is not. There is no part of consciousness where this presence is not. Indeed, we are immersed in the presence. No way around it, except if we withdraw our invitation. Our world is filled with amazing things. We can be the agents of amazing things. We have all of the resources we need to be an expression of the divine right here, right now. And there will be times when we fail to remember that. There will be times, certainly times when I fail to remember that. But an essential part of being that divine being is to be fully present and aware that this divine love applies not only to everyone out there, but also to ourselves. This divine love is the essence of forgiveness. And so we forgive ourselves when we miss the mark, when we sin. We forgive ourselves when we are engaged in such a way that is not an expression of the Christ light. We allow ourselves to be receptive, the fertile ground upon which the seeds of life are sown. We are amazing beings of light. We are amazing presenters, demonstrators of the presence of God in every moment, if we choose to be. And the question is, do we choose? What is our choice when presented with adverse circumstances? What is our choice when we're presented with adverse relationships? Whatever our choice was doesn't have to determine what our choice will be. And therein is the growth. There is where we evolve. We are amazing beings of light. We are effective ambassadors of the divine because we are the expression of the divine in our given moment, in our given place. We are that if we choose to be. Do we choose to be? Perhaps that is a question that we can have on the forefront of our minds to call upon when circumstances arise that challenge us. Who do I choose to be in this moment? Am I a representative of the divine in this moment? Am I a representative of unconditional love? Am I a representative of that underlying essence of creation, that vibration of consciousness, that divine presence? Am I a representative of that? now? So we forgive ourselves when we choose an adverse response. We recognize that we made that, take ownership of it, and then choose our next approach. Who am I going to be now? What am I going to represent now? Am I a healer? Am I the Christ? It is our choice. And so it is. Welcome back. Well, Doug, would you like to take us out?
Are we going to take an offering in our hands?
We should. So as we consider the contributions that we make to this ministry, that we have made to this ministry, as we hold this idea that we are the channel through which this ministry thrives, let us share this blessing of divine love through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give in love because I trust in God. And Doug, if you would. Together, please. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.